thank you very much for coming along. Really appreciate it's going to be a great day today, lots going on. Thank you so much to More to Life for inviting me along. Clearly there's a huge amount of opportunity in the later life market, the industry, equity release. The opportunity is absolutely superb, and it's awesome to see an event like this pulling it all together and really highlighting the opportunities. As financial advisors, though, we want to make absolutely sure that we get our fair share. So what I'm doing today is really looking at marketing, how we can attract the business and the opportunity that's out there. And briefly, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, or if you have your phone, just point your camera at that QR code and it should take you straight to my LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn's the best place to find me. And this afternoon, for those of you who registered for that, we're going to take a kind of deep dive into LinkedIn, because most of us look at LinkedIn and go, what's that? It's there, we're on it, we're not quite sure why we're on it. Could it actually be of any benefit to us? But financial advisors who have taken the trouble to learn how LinkedIn really works, and there's lots of secrets and tricks to it, find they can get some amazing results. I know a couple of financial advisors who I've given them a few tricks on LinkedIn, and they've told me that they've got new clients the very first time they tried out the techniques that I'm going to teach this afternoon. So if you'd find that useful, it'd be great to have you along this afternoon. Please feel free to take photos of the slides, but if you would like a copy of the slides for the whole day, if you can like to give me your business card, any of the breaks, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of that. Is that okay with you? Fantastic. So I had a couple of choices when I was thinking about putting this presentation together. We could either kind of do some theoretical stuff, beat around the bush a bit, give you some opportunities that may or may not be there, or we could really dig deep on this and just give you a load of stuff that just works and it will get you business. So who wants the theoretical fluff? Hands up. Nobody. We want some decent stuff? Okay, we'll do for that. Good. So I'm glad I came. So broadly speaking, this is the agenda today. We're going to do a little bit of background as to what's going on in the world of marketing for financial advisors. We're going to have a look at financial advisors' websites, what works, what doesn't work, and how to make your website work as well. We're going to particularly look at how to increase the number of conversions that you get. We're going to put this in the context of how financial advisors currently get leads, and you might be surprised to find that your website has the opportunity to get you many, many more leads that the way it's been designed means you're missing out, and a few simple tweaks can make all the difference to you. We're going to talk about your value as financial advisors. What is it that you actually sell? You know, increasingly it's less and less about products. It's more about the value and the expertise and the experience you have. That's what people want to buy into. We're going to give you then 40 marketing ideas. This is before we even touch on LinkedIn. 40 marketing ideas that just work. One or two of them you might have heard before, tried them in the past and they didn't work for you then. One of the great things about marketing is it is constantly evolving. So if we ask for nothing else today, it's for an open mind. And my goal is if each and every one of you go away today with just one idea that you think, yeah, I'll give that a go, and you commit yourself to doing it, then I will be very, very pleased indeed. So we're going to give you 40 to choose from, and so this afternoon we're going to take a deep dive into LinkedIn. Okay, now let's get this social media thing out of the way, because everyone will tell you that really social media is where it's all about. But I still see a lot of financial advisors doing what this gentleman here is doing, burying heads in the sand, coming up with all sorts of reasons why social media really isn't appropriate, why it doesn't work. And clearly, you know, you will have one or two clients who will say to you, no, I'm not on social media, my kids do that for me. I mean, here's the first thing I might suggest that you might want to think about from today. When you first meet a client for the very, very first time, add to those kind of soft fact questions that you ask one new question. Mr. or Mrs. Client, what are your 3 favourite websites? Now, some of them will say to you, I'm not interested in that, my kids do all that. But they might say to you, well, we use Skype to talk to my kids in Australia or something like that. Now, one or two of them will say to you, well, I quite like the BBC's website, maybe I quite like the National Trust's website, or maybe I quite like Saga's website. Let's just see if you can get an answer. And if they say, no, we're not interested in the internet, then you know this is a client who's probably not going to be visiting your website too much. They're probably not going to be looking out for your tweets or anything like that. So we can put them in that particular box over there. But what you will find, and all the research, all the data that just keeps coming out, showing that the internet and social media is starting to enrich the lives of everybody right across the spectrum. It's true, there's a lot not to like about social media as well. I think Twitter is fairly wild west at the moment, if you want to go there. There's a lot not to like. But with a plan and with some focus and a bit of strategy, you can really make this stuff very, very powerful indeed. So let's ask clients, what are your 3 favorite websites? Are you on social media? Do you use WhatsApp or something like that? Let's just get some sort of feel for it. Now, what's quite interesting is up until recently, fairly recently, Saga had its own social networking platform called Saga Zone. It was kind of a bit like Facebook, but you had to be over the age of 50, yeah? Actually, most people on Facebook these days are over the age of 50, but that's another story. Now, what do you suppose was the number 1 topic of conversation in the Saga forums in their online? What do you suppose the number 1 topic? Sorry? Okay, that's an interesting one straight to go for. Anything else do we think they might have been talking about? Sorry? Personal finance, exactly. A lot of talk about cruises, but personal finance was at the top of the list. Now, when the internet first came along and the concept of online forums first appeared, people were still asking questions about personal finance in online forums, but no one ever used their own name. We were told we want to be careful, we don't want to reveal too much about ourselves online. What's interesting is over the last 10, 15 years on the internet, when you go online, you see it on Facebook all the time, you see it on LinkedIn, people asking questions about personal finance using their own name and using their own details. I've just inherited £250,000. Where should I put my money? So regular folks asking other regular folks what they should do with their money and getting advice from people who aren't qualified. There's a lot of regular folks out there asking journalists. When you talk about Martin Lewis, really interesting. A lot of people asking journalists what they should do with their stuff. And, there's that argument about, well, should journalists be regulated? That one's going to go on forever, that argument. But when you think about it, if you think about the sort of clients you have and the sort of weekend newspapers that they read, maybe they get the Saturday Telegraph. The Saturday Telegraph has got some good stuff on personal finance. The Sunday Times has got its own money section as well. And each of those newspapers are full of information on personal finance, written by journalists, occasionally written by providers, occasionally written by experts in certain areas. And all those articles always end with something like, for more information, check out this website here. And it just concerns me a bit, having worked with financial advisors for 40 years, that many of our clients are being educated on personal finance by journalists, which is kind of something to think about. They have their place, of course, obviously they have their place, but really we should be doing that education piece. When people go online and they're asking questions about personal finance, those are people sticking their hand up saying, I need some help. And you also see a lot of people saying, oh, you want to check my financial advisor out? They're great. The typical referral mechanism. So we get a lot of this, and I get financial advisors saying social media has no place in a financial advice business. I kind of understand where that's coming from. We get all our business from referrals. I understand that. Social media is riddled with compliance problems. No, it isn't. We'll explore a bit more about that as we go. And I had one financial advisor say to me, oh, is it our clients are in their 70s, they're not on social media. Have you ever asked them? Most financial advisors never ask their clients, are you on social media? And I had one financial advisor say to me, well, our clients are entrepreneurs and business owners in their 40s, and they haven't got time to go on the internet. I mean, where do we get this stuff from? It's nonsense. So this is one of the reasons I asked for a bit of an open mind today as we explore a few things. Now, here is one person in their 80s who would have nothing to do with the internet at all. In fact, my father was a dental surgeon in practice down in Dorking in Surrey for 40 years. And he just would have nothing to do with the office technology or the internet. And it eventually became quite a big thing that he never sent or received an email in his entire life, wouldn't go near the office computer, would have nothing to do with it. It's not that he was anti-technology. As a dental surgeon, a new bit of dental tech came along. He was the first that, oh, I'll have that. And he saw technology as a differentiator to attract new patients through the front door. That's how he kind of saw technology. So he retired, hung up his drill, and he retired in the November, and then along comes Christmas, and my mother and I said, what can we get Dad for Christmas this year? Do we get him another putter? Do we get him some more golf balls? And I said, why don't we just chuck him in the deep? Why don't we get him a laptop for Christmas? My mother's not too sure about this. Not so sure about this. You know what he's like with the internet. And I said, no, let's just do it. Let's just get him a laptop. So we get him a laptop for Christmas. And I phoned him up on Boxing Day. I said, hi, Dad, how are you getting on? Have you had Christmas? How are you getting on with the laptop? And his reply down the phone to me was, I've learnt how to open the lid. And that's how we start. And then it was downhill from there. A week later, I phoned him up and said, how are we getting on with the laptop again? He says, well, in a really nonchalant sort of, well, I'm watching dental operations on YouTube, like as you do. And his passion was golf, okay? And he said, oh, and I'm watching the Open Championship from 1978 again. And then tomorrow I'm going to watch the Ryder Cup from 19, whatever it was. And I suddenly, it had only taken 7 days for the internet to change his life and to enrich his life. And I think for those of us in the room that were in business or in work before the internet came along, we've gone through that time. Then there's the cynical bit, which it'll go away. It hasn't gone away, guess what? And we've got to a point now where we realize, actually, maybe we ought to be taking this a bit more seriously. So social media is just one part of it. Now, this is Beryl. She doesn't mind me telling her age, she's 84 years of age, and she also was not interested in the internet. Beryl is my mother-in-law, okay? And my wife and I thought, let's do the exact same thing as we did with my father as well. She would have nothing to do with the internet, okay? But let's throw her in the deep end and see what happens. So we get her a tablet for Christmas, okay? I'm going to show you a really short video that was done on Boxing Day, pretty shortly afterwards.
Okay, Google. Pictures of the Queen on Christmas Day. Pictures of the Queen on Christmas Day. Oh, lovely. Oh.
And to me, that just says it all. Not only is she not even typing on the thing, she knows that she can just talk to it and get a response, which I think is just lovely. We will talk a little bit more about Beryl as we proceed today, because she is a perfect example of how to interact or not interact, as the case may be, with financial advisors. Okay, so why am I standing here? Let's just have a bit of a backstory and go back to 1978. I love 1978 because kind of this part of the world, where we are here today, dominated the music scene. A little bit London was dominated, but the Midlands, the West Midlands were dominating the music scene way back then. And I remember having a conversation with my dad one day in our kitchen. I had just done my A-levels, so we're talking about 41 years ago, almost to the day. Done my A-levels, I wasn't going to university, wasn't going to college, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do at all. And my dad had clocked that. And he said to me, so, you've done your exams, you got your A-levels, what are you actually going to do? How are you going to earn a living? You can't sponge off us forever. Now, at school, I'd always enjoyed photography. And I particularly enjoyed, because I loved rock music and photography. I thought, what a great combination. And I was really chucking myself into rock concert photography. This is Judas Priest, who come from this part of the world, still going strong. I took that photo in about 1979, 80, something like that. And I used to blag a press pass, ZZ Top, not from this part of the world. And this is what I just loved to do. I used to be up there at the front. Now, the rock scene back in the late 70s, early 80s was a lot dirtier than it is today. It was a very, very different time. You can see the health and safety aspects of going to a rock concert in the late 70s, early 80s were very different from they are today. And this kind of worried my dad as well. Was I going to get beaten up? Was I going to get drunk? Was I going to be doing drugs? This whole thing. But it was something I really enjoyed. It was kind of my passion in life. And I said, well, I think I fancy doing a bit of rock concert photography. And he just looked at me blankly. And now you have to put this in context. Bear in mind, so my dad's a dental surgeon. His brother was a senior consultant surgeon. His other brother was an officer in the Guards. And his dad was the worldwide CEO of the Royal Exchange. My mum was a magistrate. And her father was an engineer of considerable global repute. Invented the dimmer switch, invented hydraulics, invented the dishwasher. We should all say thank you to my grandfather for inventing the dishwasher. So, given that context, my dad wandered off muttering about something about getting a proper job. And we all kind of know where that one's coming from, yeah? And a couple of years later, the moment changed for me when I realised perhaps I ought to get a proper job. And this was a great moment from here. So here's Blackfoot, a band from the United States. This was in the Hammersmith Odeon in London. And I was up the front. This is the album cover that was taken on that particular day. And I'm on the front cover of that particular album. But it was a couple of days later, I thought, oh, maybe I should get a proper job. Now, I had the exact same conversation with my 12-year-old son a couple of years back, and I said to him, so Ben, what are you going to do? We like to start early in our house. And he just, for the briefest of moments, he took his eyes off his computer screen and said, well, I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm going to record myself playing Minecraft and all these other games, and I upload them. He's already doing this. He's upload them to my YouTube channel, and I'm aiming for X thousand subscribers. And I go, oh, really? My instinct is, no, you're not. You're going to get a proper job. But then I thought, who am I to say what a proper job is or isn't in a world where technology is becoming more and more dominant? What was really interesting, he even knew the business model. I said to him, how are you going to make money out of this? He said, well, I take a cut of the advertising that's paid to YouTube. And he knew the model. If I get X number of subscribers to my YouTube, I'll earn this. If I get this number, I'll earn this. Now, what's interesting, those of you with teenagers right now, we look at the world of work, there's a very good chance that if they go to employed work, the jobs that they will do haven't yet been invented. In many ways, that's very worrying. In many ways, it's very exciting. So the moment came, and I had to get a proper job. And so I went down to the Dorking Job Centre, and the Dorking Job Centre lady there, I had a 7-minute interview. And after my 7-minute assessment, she came back and she said, we think you're cut out for a career in pension scheme administration. We can get you 2 interviews today. One with a company called National Employers Life. Any of you remember NEL, National Employers Life? It's now Unum, basically. And this is their head office. Or you can have an interview with Friends Provident. This one was nearer to my house and within walking distance, and this was their head office. Henry VIII owned, this was one of his weekend retreats, and I went and set about my career of pension scheme administration. 6 months after that, my boss at the time said, Mr. Calvert, we don't think you're cut out for pension scheme administration, but we do think sales might be your thing. Would you like to be a broker consultant? Those days they were called inspectors, I think. Yeah, inspectors, whatever you call them these days. And so that's what I did. And for the next 20 years, I met 20 financial advisors every single week. Week in, week out. That's how we did it. We had to make appointments. We weren't like the Standard Life guys and girls who went around with wheelbarrows collecting proposal forms. We had to make appointments with you. The training was absolutely fantastic. And what was a really interesting thing, although our products were very much rate orientated, so the financial advisor could justifiably go with the cheapest most of the time, I discovered the more people I went to see and shook hands with, the more business we got. When I went on holiday and I didn't see anybody, down went the amount of business. When I put a special effort in and saw 30 people in a week, up went the business that I got. Which I thought was interesting. Maybe there was a learning point there. And I've been doing that. I became an IFA for a couple of years, which I didn't really enjoy all that much. Then I went to Zurich and finished there as head of national accounts, but continued doing this, see the people. The more people I saw, the more business I got. And I reckon, I'm guessing this, I've met more financial advisors than anybody else in the industry. I've spoken at all the conferences, collected all the business cards. And I have kept every single business card that every financial advisor has ever given me since about 1979, much to my wife's horror. They are in boxes, crates, all around the place. And I kind of look at it as my network. And we'll explore the concept of networks as we go, because I think it's quite an important one as well. Now, in all that time, from the very first financial advisor I ever met, there's been one constant question that financial advisors ask time and time again, and that is, how do you generate leads? Do you buy them? Do you use, and this is before the internet, but even today, and I run an online forum for financial advisors today called Life Talk. It's based on, there's a version of it on LinkedIn and there's a version of it on Facebook. There are thousands of financial advisors who use this forum to ask each other questions, help each other out, network with each other. But the number one question that keeps coming up is, how do we get leads? And yet most financial advisors tell us that the number one source of leads is referrals, and quite rightly so. You've done a great job with the client, it's right and proper that they will refer you to someone else. But the fact that the lead generation question keeps coming up suggests to me that maybe we're not getting quite enough referrals as we'd like. Maybe we need to top it up a bit. And all the lead generation firms will tell you, the unbiaseds of this world, all of those will tell you that really their services are there to top up when you need a few extra ones, okay? And from as far as I can see, firms like Unbiased, for example, financial advisors either love them or they hate them. It's kind of 50-50, falls right down there. So let's just have a little bit at referrals. But before I do, the single most effective form of marketing for financial advisors is this: put on seminars. Most of the most successful financial advisors around the world, whatever area of financial advice, financial planning they're involved in, seminars, workshops and client events are the most effective. If there's one thing my dad did say to me that I remembered, and that's this concept of people by people. I'm the first person to say the internet's a great place, we should be using it, having a plan, but I'm also the first person to say, actually, people want to see the whites of your eyes. That's what it's about. Now, we'll talk a little bit about seminars and why they're powerful. I can convince anybody that they should be putting on a seminar, but at the back of their head they're saying, but it's a risk, isn't it? What if we don't get a room full of people? What if I fork out this money for this hotel or this venue and they don't turn up? At the end of the day, it's just a process. Learn the process to get bums on seats, it works. So that's actually the easy bit. But it's the act of standing up in front of a group of people, they can see the whites of your eyes, they'll decide very quickly whether or not they like you. Simple human things. Do I like this person? Do I feel there's trust here? Do I feel there's expertise? Those simple human things are what makes the difference. So we'll explore a bit more on seminars later. Now, if we go back a few years before the internet, and we went to a dinner party, and maybe we were thinking about getting our pension ducks in a row. Maybe we're nearing retirement and we just know we need to get some professional advice. We're sitting around the dinner table, inevitably two conversations came up back then. Fox hunting, it's always a ruiner of a good dinner party, that one, and personal finance. And you might say, well, yeah, it comes around to personal finance, and they say, well, I'm looking for a financial advisor right now. And your host or someone around the table might say, oh, you want to check out Jones & Co., my financial advisor, they're great. And you write their phone number down on the napkin, and the next day you'd phone them up. Yeah, that's what used to happen. These days, something gets in the way. These days we're at the dinner party, somebody says, oh, you want to talk to Jones & Co., they're great, and we write down their website on the napkin. We go home, we don't phone them up, we check them out online. And where we're doing our searching around online, an interesting thing happens. Yes, we find Jones & Co., but we also see websites from other financial advisors as well. So that referral is not quite as strong or as concrete as it might otherwise. Someone else might actually get the business. Just the act of doing the searching for Jones & Co. might be enough that Smith & Co. will get a piece of business. Now here's the interesting thing. Let's just go back to Beryl. Now she was married for 40 years or so in Cheltenham, raised 3 daughters. I married one of them. And one morning she wakes up and her husband is standing there with his suitcase packed, and he says, "I'm sorry, but I'm leaving you." Now that's a day that she will never forget. And off he goes, and like she's still in bed, her husband's gone. I mean, that's quite a day to start that particular day. Now, to cut a long story short, after a few months, she's decided that maybe she wants to leave Cheltenham and live closer to one of her daughters. Shows us, but there we go. She's a lovely lady, and then she'd never had to do this before in her life. She had to move house and make all. And obviously, we helped her as a family, but she bought a house just down the road from us, so she'd never done all that before. The moving into a new area that she didn't know anybody. And 6 months after that, the phone rang one Sunday morning, and Beryl was on the phone to me, and she said, "I need to get my personal finances sorted out." And then her actual words were, "Can we go on your internet thingy and find a financial advisor?" She knew, although she would have nothing to do with the internet, as we mentioned earlier, she still knows that that's where you go. Pre-internet, where would she have gone? Probably Yellow Pages or something like that. She didn't actually want to ask any of her friends, because she was of a kind of generation that she felt a little bit of shame about what had happened. She didn't want this to get out. It obviously was going to get out, but she didn't want to perpetuate it. So I said, "Yeah, come round." So I get my internet thingy out and got my laptop out, and we just put it on the kitchen table. And she said, "Right, what do we do?" I said, "Well, what we're going to do is we're going to type financial advisor in Guildford into the search engine, and let's see what comes up." Now, I already knew which financial advisors would come up top of the Google search results. And I thought, just because Martin Bamford at Informed Choice knows his way around the internet doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to send my mother-in-law off to him. Just because Keith Churchhouse of Chapters Financial knows his way around the internet, I'm not necessarily going to send my mother-in-law off to him. So I knew who would come up the top of the list, but this was a really interesting exercise for me. So we did the search, load of search results came up, and we start looking at websites. And she says, "Oh, this is interesting." She said, "It's a bit like a brochure, isn't it?" I go, "Yes, it is." She said, "Can we print off their websites?" So we found kind of 6 financial advisor firms, IFA firms in the area, and we printed them off, right? And we laid them all out on the kitchen table. And the word brochure was resonating in my head there. And when I was looking at these websites from financial advisors, I suddenly spotted something I'd been missing for quite a while. And that was, they all said the same thing. They all used the same words. They all use the same pictures. I'll show you what pictures they use, some themes in a minute or two. And I'm thinking, how on earth is my mother-in-law going to differentiate one from another? She chose one eventually, and I'll explain a little bit more how she chose one in a minute or two. But so we're going online, and as financial advisors, we are really struggling to differentiate ourselves. There's a guy out in the United States, does a bit sort of what I do over there, a guy called Michael Kitces. It's the most popular blog for financial advisors in the world, and he talks about a crisis of differentiation for financial advisors. I know the crisis is a bit strong, but when you look at financial advisors' websites all laid out in a row, they all say exactly the same thing. It's even worse on LinkedIn. You do a random sample of financial advisors, they literally do say the same thing. They use the same words. So standing out from the crowd is a tricky one. Who's this? Audrey Hepburn. Okay, of the 2 Audrey Hepburns, which is the real one? The one on the left. It's really interesting. I guess none of you have ever met her, but that's the real one on the left. The one on the right is a professional lookalike. Someone who is actually paid to look and behave like another brand. She gets hired to go to conferences so people can have a selfie with her and all this kind of stuff. None of you in this room are paid to look and behave like each other. But that's, in many ways, exactly what's happening. Now, the problem with lookalikes is that initially you do what you just did is a bit amusing, but it doesn't take too long for it starts looking a bit creepy and a bit weird. None of us can afford to look like each other, and we've got to try and find ways to differentiate ourselves and stand out from the crowd. So we don't go straight, as we used to the financial advisor that we've been recommended. We go onto the internet, we find other financial advisors, and the internet wins. Or another financial advisor wins. And with robo-advice and all sorts of other technology, there will be a number of people who think, okay, this is interesting. Now that I've actually started digging around the internet, it looks like I can get all the information I need from the internet, from this blog or from this journalist, or I can do it myself using this tool or this tech. So not only are we potentially losing out to other financial advisors, we're also potentially losing out to technology as well. I mean, I happen to believe that there's always going to be a place for high quality face-to-face advice. I think that's just a given. But we won't be asked to give that advice if we're not differentiating ourselves and getting people's attention. Now, technology at the same time has a habit of creeping up behind us and kicking us in the backside when we're least expecting it. Really interesting, in the car coming up this morning, you probably heard the interview with the president of Microsoft, who's just launched a book this week about the pros and cons of technology and how it's changing this. You look at this is the front cover of the New York Times from 2013. Any other day in the history of the New York Times, except this particular day, professional photographers around the world were crying into their cornflakes. They knew this day was coming. The day when a photo taken on an iPhone by an amateur would make it onto the front cover of a national major newspaper. And professional photographers said, this just isn't right. My brother being one of them. My brother is a professional photographer, and he said this just isn't right. How are we going to compete if hack amateurs can pick up their phone, use a filter, and put quite a half-decent photo? We had a chat about that, and I said, we've got two choices, I guess. One is you pack it all in, which I guess you don't want to do, or you up your game and you differentiate yourself. And to cut a long story short, he decided to up his game, and he is now the UK's #1 family portrait photographer. He invested in his skills, he's already pretty good, more training, more skills, and worked really hard to differentiate himself. And I mean, this one, everyone uses Uber as the ultimate example of disruption and how it's going to impact the transportation world. I mean, I was in the back of a London black cab not all that long ago, and whenever I get in a London cab, I always love to ask the driver, "How are things?" And this particular day, I struck gold, and I said to the driver, "How are things?" And he went, "Well." That's how I thought, oh, this is going to be good. And he said, "Well, sir, I've been a taxi driver for 40 years in London, and the way I get my business traditionally is I'm driving down the street and people jump off the pavement doing that. That's how I get my business." Then he said, "Do you know what they can do now? They can, from their desk in their office, they can go onto an app on their phone and they can call a phone from there." And then he banged the steering wheel and he said, "It's just not right." Now, I get it. If you're in an industry or a profession that is potentially going to be impacted by disruption, I get it. And I think this is the case for all of us. Me, you, everyone in this room. Technology, we either stick our heads in the sand and hope it goes away, or we spend some time to really get on top of this and just learn a bit about it. We don't need to get obsessive about it, just learn a bit more. How could technology help me? How could it hurt me as well? A lot of people talk about having a digital non-executive director in your business. Just someone who will challenge you and advise you from time to time, once a month, once a quarter, whatever, just to keep you up to speed on what's going on in the world of technology. And most of it won't be relevant to you, but some of it will be. And we need to be on top of this stuff. Okay, so let's dig a bit deeper on technology. and go onto the internet and let's see what we used to do on the internet over the years. If we go back to 2007, the number one activity that we used to do on the internet was search for stuff. Porn mostly, but I've taken that line off the graph. But we started to do something else as well. As the years went by, as well as searching for stuff, we also started to visit social networking sites. And in about April 2010, pivotal moment in the history of the internet, no one noticed it at the time, the number of visits to social networking sites overtook the number of visits to search engines. And when you think about it, with the benefit of hindsight, of course that was going to happen. You see it happening on Facebook, you see it happening on LinkedIn every single day. People using social networking sites as search engines. You go on Facebook right now, some of your friends will be saying, can anyone recommend a plumber in our area? Can anyone recommend a good kennels when we go away on? Yeah, can anyone recommend a good restaurant? The day TripAdvisor was born was a game changer for the hospitality industry. Because let's just imagine it, before TripAdvisor, maybe we fancied a nice weekend away, I don't know, down in Devon or something like that, and we thought, yeah, let's do that, a long weekend, and we used to go onto the internet and we used to type in B&Bs, nice B&Bs down in Devon. We'd find a whole bunch of websites, and what would those websites tell you? How great they are. They wouldn't say the service is a bit crap on a Thursday evening. They wouldn't say the carpets are a bit dirty on the first land. They'd tell you all the good stuff. So we needed the truth. And for the most part, we get the truth from TripAdvisor and real people. And what's interesting about this is that human beings would rather ask the opinion of other human beings, even if we've never met them before. So that's good news for people power. That's good news for people relationships. So it's something to be aware of, that there are people out there right now on social media asking questions about, can you recommend a financial advisor? I see it happening all the time. Can anyone recommend what I should be doing with the money I've just inherited? Can anybody tell me about this equity release lark? Is it any good? Is it reliable? Yeah? And you rarely see a financial advisor get involved in a conversation like that. Very often because there's a perception about compliance. Compliance and social media is really very easy. And I get that different networks and different companies have their own approaches on it. The simple fact of the matter is, do not do financial promotions on social media. I mean, you can if they go through compliance, but don't. Why? Because no one wants them. No one wants financial promotions sitting in their Twitter feed or their LinkedIn. We're just not interested, okay? And don't give financial advice. Those are the kind of two basic rules. Stick to those, you'll be fine. And I'll give you some examples of people of financial advisors who use social media extensively, and their compliance people have rarely even look at their stuff because they don't need to. Quite often you'll find that social media gives you a better search result than Google or Bing or even Google or Bing. A few years ago, we were having our family summer holiday in southern Spain. Now, my wife's the detail person in our house. And we wanted somewhere that was a nice villa with a pool, air conditioning, near the coast, some nice restaurants nearby, maybe some old stuff down the road that we can go and take photos of. My wife does the research. This is the place we found, and we booked the flights with EasyJet separately. Okay, we booked it 6 months in advance. Job done. Looking forward to it. About a month before we're due to leave, we start hearing about forest fires on the news that are raging in southern Spain. And we go, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if it's anywhere near where we're going. And we thought nothing more of it. But about a week before we're due to go, turns out the forest fires is quite a big deal, still raging away. And I remember we stand in front of the TV one evening going, wouldn't it be terrible if where we're going was caught up in this? 3 days before we're due to go, guess what? The email comes in from the owner. You may have heard about the forest fires that are raging in southern Spain. Really sorry to tell you, the house you've booked isn't there anymore. Now, we've still got the flights, so all of a sudden I become Mr. Efficient and I go straight online, see if I can find somewhere else with 3 days to go. It'd be nice if we had a pool, air conditioning, near the coast, nice restaurants nearby, all that goes. I couldn't find anything at all. I thought, well, maybe we can give this social media lark a go. And I go onto LinkedIn and I go onto Facebook and I typed in, I don't suppose anybody knows somebody who's got a villa in southern Spain that's available next week. Be nice if we had a pool near the coast, restaurant, and all that stuff. Do you know, within 30 minutes, I had 5 offers in my inbox. 5 offers in 30 minutes. One of them was from a financial advisor. And he said, Phil, we've had a property down in Spain for years. We've not promoted it this year because we're doing a bit of refurbishment. It's yours. Give you a big discount. Could you take some photos for the website? Don't tell my wife, way better than the one she chose. And so social media came good for us, really worked particularly well. So what do we suppose happened next after this? Okay, visits to social networking sites overtaking visits to search engine. What happened next was that use of messaging apps overtook use of social networking platforms, which kind of suggests to me that when human beings are given tools that help them to communicate quickly, easily, and ideally free, we'll use them. And so it's all come full circle. I have an older son, and I remember, do any of you remember MSN Messenger? That was the kind of first messaging tool, way before, well, I say way before social media, but around about the beginning time of that. And I remember my older son on my laptop typing to 20, talking to 20 people simultaneously in a language that I never learnt at school. And I just think this is fascinating. And it suggests to me that really this whole technology thing is all about, it's actually about communication. That's what it's really all about. If we can find, this whole social networking thing is just gloss, noise and gloss. Yeah, I like a cat video as much as anybody else. In fact, a lot of what I see on social media these days appalls me. There's a lot of problems with social media, a lot of problems. I mean, you can filter it if you know how to do it. But social media has never really interested me, but social networking I'm absolutely fascinated about. And it's the networking bit, it's the communication bit that is all important. And it's all this guy's fault. Mr. Jobs, back in 2007 when the iPhone was launched to the world, interesting, the big deal about the iPhone was actually the fact that it could hold so much music. That was kind of the big deal, and you could make phone calls at the same time. That was the kind of the big deal about it. Interesting though that vinyl has come back round again these days. So when we're looking at websites, we need to find ways of communicating with people. When we look at social media, we need to find ways of communicating with people rather than just putting our website. At the end of the day, most of our websites are brochures online. And we've got to ask the question, why would we want to someone read our brochure online any more than on a glossy piece of cardboard or paper? We've got to find ways to communicate with people and using the tools that are at our disposal. Okay, so let's have a quick look at websites and suggest a few ideas as to what we could do better with them. And the good news about all this is it costs next to nothing to do this stuff, yeah? When financial advisors, this question about where do I generate leads, okay, outside of referrals. In actual fact, if you have a website, you've already got plenty of leads right under your nose. Well, I've done some research on financial advisors' websites where we looked at hundreds of websites and we found the average number of visitors that you get per month is 197. Some much higher, some much lower, but it's 197. It's 197 people who visited your website. 99.9% of whom have not gone on to make an inquiry. Now, one of the problems with financial advisors' website is you don't know this number. There's a number for your firm and none of you in this room know it. In fact, a quick show of hands, anybody who has looked at their website stats in the last week? Anybody done that? That's actually quite a lot more than most other financial advisors. It's a piece of management information. Whether you work for a firm or whether you own the firm, you need to know the numbers. Now, Google Analytics and all those great tools give you way more information than you'll ever need. But we'll show you which bits of information you do need. So there's no point in having a website if you don't know what's going on. If I asked any of you, Can you tell me roughly how many referrals you've had from that firm of accountants that you work with? How many referrals have you had this year? You'll probably give me a fairly quick and easy answer, but you won't be able to tell me how many people came via your website. So most of you have already got best part of 200 people visiting your website every single month. There are some other stats you need to know as well. How many visits? How many pages of your website did they look at? Which pages did they look at? How long they spent on each page? What did they type into Google that led them to your website? Where are they? And what was the page where they finally caved in and thought, oh, I'm off? In fact, let me ask you, what do you think is the page that most people leave a financial advisor's website? Homepage? That's interesting. That would be awful. Any others? About us? That's even worse almost, isn't it? Contact is certainly one of them. It used to be, most financial don't do this anymore, but there's still quite a few that they have a page that says useful links. And you have a page where you list out some other, like the insurance ombudsman and stuff like that. That's the page where you are proactively encouraging people to leave your website. Why would you do that? If you're going to put useful links on your website, make them links to other pages on your own website. Or make them genuinely useful. I know a few financial advisors who have really started to build relationships in their local community. So they will put a link to these fantastic butchers or fishmongers that's in their town or in their village. When you come visit us, our financial advisor, go visit these butchers as well and ask for a pound of their best sausages, that sort of stuff, yeah? So make them genuinely useful. Okay, so the page where people usually give up is actually the home page, which is a disaster. And what's known as the bounce rate. They arrive on your homepage, they look, and they bounce straight off. And every one of you has a bounce rate percentage. Okay? The average bounce rate percentage for financial advisors is 54%. More than half of your website visitors leave without looking at a second page. Now, it could be that they were looking for a B&B in Devon and stumbled across your site by accident. Fair enough. There's going to be a certain percentage of those 197 who weren't going to do business with you anyway. And the bounce rate, if anything below 25% is really good. 25%, if you lose a quarter of your website visitors off the homepage, that's actually quite good. And I've seen financial advisors in the high 80s%, and they had no idea that this was happening. One of the problems is your homepage. When we first started having websites as financial advisors, all the experts and all the marketing people were telling you at the time, quite rightly, you need to make your homepage sticky. Do you remember that expression? You've got to have a sticky homepage. In other words, that means putting enough stuff on there that people are going to read it. And back in the day, when websites were first, that's kind of what we did. Remember, we were using the internet to search for information. We'd find a financial advisor's website. There's a whole ton of stuff, so we'd sit and read through it. But things have changed. The problem with having a website where you've got 34 clickable links on the homepage, and from the financial advisors' websites I've looked at, I've counted up, on average, you have 34 things that people could click on the homepage alone. And now what's that going to do to people? It's just going to confuse them. That's the problem. A confused mind will always say no. Simple as that. What we need to do is to get to a point where someone arrives on their website and it kind of speaks to them. It says, oh my goodness, this financial advice firm was designed for me and my particular needs and my issues. So traditional websites, it's a bit like a brick wall. We do all this good stuff, all this social media stuff, our blogging, our referrals, all that good stuff. They arrive on our website, 34 things that we could click on, and it leaves you, the financial advisor, with empty pockets at the end of the day. You're paying for a website that is doing nothing. It's no different from going down a shopping mall and handing out leaflets or brochures and hoping that one or two people go, oh, cool, I need a pensions expert. I need a later life expert. It ain't going to happen. Just not going to happen. So, in my view, a financial advisor's website should do one of two things. Either add value to existing clients so that your website becomes less of a promotional thing and more of a value-added stuff. Maybe you put your blog, maybe you put some videos, maybe you've got some courses, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things. Maybe you can give them access to their portfolio through your wrap platform or whatever it is to do. Or you have a website that is designed to convert new visitors into inquiries. It operates in such a way that all we're trying to do is to get a conversation going, either on the phone, on Skype, or in a coffee shop. Don't try to do both. So arguably, 2 websites might be the right way to go. There is a school of thought that says if you do pensions, investments, long-term care, protection, mortgages, and something else, you should have 6 websites. There's a school of thought that says that. I mean, maybe at that dinner party, I'm recommended to go to Jones & Co. and I check out their website, and I go to Jones & Co.'s website and I'm looking for a pensions expert, and it's telling me they're doing investments, equity release, mortgage, and all this other stuff. My head is kind of thinking, I can see you say you do pensions, but you seem to do all this other stuff as well. Perhaps you're a jack of all trades. This is one of the problems with being financial advisors. You have all this expertise in a broad variety of different areas, and you want to show it off, and that's absolutely fair enough. But what that's actually doing is confusing people. So that's just a bigger, more strategic thing for you to kind of think about. There are simple things that you can do. I'm constantly changing my website, and this is a screenshot from about 6 months ago. This is the homepage. That's it. How many clickable links can you see on that homepage? 1. But look what I've done here. There's a little arrow. Yeah, let me just pop some stuff on here. We've got to stand out from the crowd, not confuse people. I would strongly urge you actually take stuff off your homepage. Really think closely about who is my perfect target client. If I could dream up this person, they call it your perfect client avatar in marketing speak. If I could write this person down, give them a name, give them a job, what do they read, where do they go on holiday, what sports do they like, what do they like to drink? If I could create that person, what would it look like? Write your homepage for that person. And if you aim for the best possible scenario for you, the people who don't quite reach that high bar, they will actually find your website appealing as well. So go for the best and go for what are the... So if your perfect target client is a heart surgeon in London, for sake of argument, you will presumably know the personal finance issues of heart surgeons in London, and you write the website aimed at them. You can also do something here. It says here, how did you hear about us? Okay? And there's a drop-down box. I don't really care how they heard about me. What I'm trying to do is to get them to take a tiny bit of physical action just to interact with my website, whether to tap the button, just to get them to do something. And all the evidence shows is when you get people to physically interact with your website in some way, shape or form, it dramatically increases the likelihood that they will go on to read more and to get in contact with you. Just do something like, how did you hear about us? That's all you need to do. You don't even need to collect the data. What we're trying to do is just to get them to take that micro commitment to touch your website or to interact with it. And these are the most common themes that financial advisors use on their websites. You get an awful lot of lighthouses, and I get why you might have a lighthouse. Lighting the way. A lot of financial advisors have compasses on their website, yachts and cruises, violins. This was a great one, green shoots. Couples sitting on deck chairs, very popular. Grandparents flying kites with their grandchildren. You've seen it all before, haven't you? You're all, and I don't want to embarrass you, but I'll lay any money that people in this room have got one or more of these themes on your website. So we all look the same. We're not differentiating ourselves. And here's something as well. A lot of financial advisors are their websites are a bit vague. They tell us the bleeding obvious. They tell us stuff we can figure out for ourselves. Now, a lot of people, this was fine in the early days of websites. It's not fine anymore because more and more people now because of journalists, because of what they can find and do for themselves on the internet. They arrive on your website very much better informed than they used to be. Some of them are already halfway through the financial planning process, which they've done themselves. I mean, you go to any doctor's surgery around the UK today, the doctors will tell you that a certain number of people arrive for their appointment with a sheaf of papers under their arm. And they walk into the doctor, and the doctors can see them. Oh, I know, here's another one. And the doctor says, so how are we today, Mrs. Smith, or whatever? Mrs. Smith will say, well, I've had a pain here for the last couple of days, and I've been onto Google, and I think I've got whatever. And the doctors will tell you that by and large, on average, for day-to-day common ailments, they've got the diagnosis about right. When the doctor then goes and says, okay, so how do we go from here? They say, oh, I've looked that up as well. I need a prescription for this, that and the other. They say, but the prescription, what they prescribe themselves, is usually way off. And it's the same with personal financial planning. More and more of us can go down that road ourselves, but we still need the prescription written by you guys. So our websites need to stop being quite so vague and put a lot more detail on them. And also, Google loves websites with lots of detail, particularly detail that is aimed at a particular market or particular area of expertise. Google loves high quality now, because you have to remember at the end of the day, Google is a service provider. And if we can't find what we're looking for, we'll use Bing, or we'll go to social media and ask questions. If you and I live next door to each other, and you've invited me around for drinks one afternoon, and you've got a magnificent giant TV, and we're going to stand next to it, we're going to talk about pixels like we know what we're talking about, and maybe I'm in the market for one, I'm going to ask you a few questions. What sort of questions might I ask you about your TV?
Quality.
Quality. Anything else?
Cost.
Where'd you get it? Reviews, free delivery, all that kind of stuff, okay? Now, if I'm thinking, okay, I like the look of that, I'm going to go home and I'm going to go into Google and I'm going to type. If I type in TVs into Google, what do I want to find? All the stuff that we've just been talking about. Reviews, prices, free delivery, all that good stuff. What I don't want to see at the top of the list is John Logie Baird's original spec for the television before that broadcast from Crystal Palace, which my grandfather was present at, because he was a friend of John Logie Baird. So I don't want that, I want the good stuff. So where does Google get the good stuff from? It gets it from websites that have got that kind of detail on it. So really what we want to be thinking about is, who is our perfect dream client, and create our website aimed at that, but with some detail that when they arrive on your website, they go, right, this person knows what they're talking about. The side benefit of that is that Google will love your website and will push you higher up the search results. Okay, a couple of minutes before coffee. What we need to be thinking about now is a website where somebody arrives, wherever they've come from, that is down this old-fashioned, they call it a funnel approach. It literally speaks to them. You can take the visitor by the hand and say, come this way, I'm going to look after you. And there's no reason why they wouldn't want to do that. That's why seminars work. Because people can get to see and experience your expertise as well as see the whites of your eyes. And if you do it right, there's no earthly reason why they would want to go to any other financial advisor as a result of that. So how do we get people, well, I talk about how do we get people taken by the hand and feel that they really, really want to do business with you. And it's this concept of having a value ladder. Here's the problem, I think, with financial advice. We're living in a world now where commission is sort of kind of fast disappearing, fees are being charged, and what we're trying to expect people to do is to arrive on our website and go, yes, I'll pay for your highest value service in one hit. To me, that is a big ask in this day and age, when you can do a lot of the stuff yourself. Why would I get my checkbook out and write that kind of check straight away when I don't know you, you've no reputation with me? And this is another reason why seminars are great, because people get a sense of your expertise. Putting on a seminar is a great way to get people in, get to know you, find out who you are, find out what you're about, so they start to build a relationship with you and the trust starts to build. So we don't really have any concept of a value ladder. What do I mean by a value ladder? Let's talk about Tony Robbins. We all heard of Tony Robbins, personal development guru. Love him or hate him, he's kind of one of those sort of people. Now, Tony Robbins, for most people, if you've never come across Tony Robbins before, in this day and age, the first place you'll come across him is YouTube. And you'll probably see a video, Stop Your Negative Thinking, 30 minutes for the next 90 years, 30 years of your life, blah, blah, blah. That's the sort of thing. And you'll watch a Tony Robbins video, and if you like it, you'll watch another. And then you'll watch another, and before you know it, a couple of hours have gone by. And you think, I like this Tony Robbins guy, I like his go-getting attitude. Let's check out his website, or maybe he's on Facebook. And sure enough, we find Tony Robbins, and by pure coincidence, he seems to be doing a Facebook Live broadcast. That's free. Yeah, we'll give that a go. And we get motivated, whatever. And then maybe we sign up for something, and then we go check out his website. On his website, we happen to find that he's promoting his latest book. Note the topic. What's he know about money? Other than the fact that he's got a lot. Now, and Tony's giving this book away free. A real hardback book for free. All you've got to do is get your credit card out to pay the postage. He'd like you to do that because that is a micro commitment. And it also cuts out the people who are just looking for freebies all the time. The book arrives, you like the book, you get a few more emails from him, adding extra value. A couple of weeks or months down the road, we see he's doing a one-day event near us or in town or wherever. We think, oh, okay, now I've got to pay a bit of money for this, but I like Tony Robbins so far, I like the cut of his jib, all this good stuff, I think this is probably going to be worth the money. So you get your credit card out, you go to the event, you come home thinking, wow, that was awesome. Tony's now in your life. More emails come in, more value, you watch more videos. And before you know it, he's promoting another event. And this is a longer one. Now this is going to cost you more money. Certainly can't afford to go for the seats right up the front, but I'm more than happy to pay a bit more than I paid last time to go see Tony again. If I pay a bit more, maybe I'll have my photo taken with him. Have a selfie. You go along, you get motivated, you love it, you know what's going to happen next. Round the corner there's another event. This costs even more, but you're all in with Tony now. Tony's your man, he's your coach, he's your mentor, he's your guru. The value just keeps coming, and I'm prepared to start paying a bit more money. In other words, I'm going up Tony's value ladder. And then, when we least expect it, we discover he's got something really quite expensive. And for a lot of people, this is where they'll bail out. There's just too much to go on this. Spend the weekend with him. But quite a lot of people do. And after they've been on this, Tony offers you the ultimate. This cost you about $80,000 to go on this, okay? And I understand there is a level higher than this that doesn't get promoted, where you can spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and spend a weekend with him at his home in Fiji or wherever. That is a value ladder. What about the value ladder for something a bit closer to home? How about a dentist? You quite often see dentists giving away teeth cleaning for free, just to get you in, look after you. Some dentists these days will even do teeth whitening. Now you think about this. Years ago, teeth whitening would have been way up at the top of the value ladder. That's a premium thing that only celebs get done. We can all do that these days. And a lot of dentists will give it away for free just to get you in the building. And they look after you, give awesome customer service. They'll even get a video testimonial of you, showing off your new white teeth. Just to get in. And the really cool bit is the dentist doesn't actually need to do these two bits. The paraplanner or whatever they call them can do that bit. What about the value ladder for a chiropractor? It could be a variety of different things. We're only limited by our own imaginations as to what value ladder we could create ourselves. Free consultation, free massage. I know one or two that even do free acupuncture. Again, once upon a time, acupuncture was the top thing. That was the premium product. These days, anyone can do it. What do you suppose the value ladder for a gym might be? Just hazard a guess.
Free membership.
And when does that membership usually start? January the 1st. So they're all gearing up right now for January the 1st, what offers they're all going to make. All the gyms, all the private clubs, that's what they're doing now. Right at the top of the list, what do we think is probably year-long membership, family membership, private coaching, all that kind of stuff. This is my value ladder for financial advisors. I'm trying to get you to get your credit cards out and come on a weekend marketing retreat with me at a really nice hotel. We got some other speakers come. That's where I'm going to take you. Now, if you visited my website, you're not going to see that. And if that was what I was offering, I'm not going to get any takers. So I start down here. I've got a Facebook group, I've got a LinkedIn group packed full of amazing value for financial advisors. Books, e-books, sometimes I give them away free, sometimes you pay for them. Webinars, I can put those on for free, sometimes I charge for them. Sometimes I put on a workshop where you pay a couple £100, something like that. We're gradually taking you up here. If you like that bit, you're going to like that, you're going to like that, and if you like that, we just keep going up the ladder. But if I was to try and sell you that right from the start, that's a tough ask for me, because you don't know me from Adam, you don't know whether I'm any good, there's no trust, there's no relationship. So we have to build the trust gradually by offering cheap stuff and free stuff, and gradually take it further up. Yeah? So what do we think? What ideas do you think we could come up with as a value ladder for financial advisors? Now, for a lot of financial advisors, this really is new stuff. You've heard of this before, but you've often thought this isn't for our industry, this isn't right for our profession. But I think this is the direction we're going to start seeing more and more. You could write a quick tips book or an e-guide. If your target market is heart surgeons in London, you could come up with a 3-page guide on a Word document, 10 ways for heart surgeons to increase their income in retirement. How hard is that? How hard is that to do? Maybe you're into the equity release market. 10 myths about the equity release market. Easy to write, takes you no time at all, no financial advice, there's no financial promotion, it's just education, it's value. Give that away on your website. So if you are targeting later life product, equity release, you know who your perfect target client is, you create your homepage specifically aimed at them, and you give something away for free in exchange for their email address. Then you communicate a bit more with them, whether you want to do that by phone, by email, keep the relationship going. Start taking them up. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that you do all of this. I'm suggesting you think about maybe 2 or 3 things on that list. Each and every one of you in this room could write a really simple tips guide. 10 ways to do this, 6 ways to do that, 100 ways to do that. Each and every one of you could do that. If you were putting on seminars, you could maybe print them up and give them away to everybody who comes along. I think we're only limited by our own imaginations as to how we repackage our expertise and experience that we've gained over the year. You think about one of the things we've really got right in this industry is a drive towards professional standards. You think of all those exams you've done. You think about all those exams you've done. So let's go back to Beryl. We've got kitchen table covered in financial advisors' websites. She goes, not sure about that one, not sure about that one. And bear in mind they all say the same thing. They all got the balloons and elderly couples sitting in deck chairs. Don't like that one, don't like that one. And then she goes, I like the look of that one. Where can I write to him? She doesn't want to email him or use the contact form. How do I write to this guy? I thought that's a nice point. And that's a really important point as well. Just because we've got a website, why would someone necessarily want to make contact with us through the website? Some people might want to do proper old school and get out a piece of paper and write a letter. Anyway, she goes, I like the look of him. What do you suppose it was about this particular website that was different, that got her attention? Yeah, you got it in one. It was the guy's photo. Now, here's a really interesting thing. First of all, I've got a party piece I can do where I can write the About Us page for any financial advisor in the UK without having met them once. And you'll be pleased with it and you'll pay me. Because you all say the same thing. But this one was different. And the photos, right? Photos are usually the same. They're slightly LinkedIn-ish. You know, slightly professional. But this guy's was different. Now, what he'd done was, he hadn't done the side-on thing. What he was doing was he was kind of leaning on his desk like this. On the wall behind was all his certificates for all the exams that he'd done. Now, whether he'd put them there on purpose, I don't know, but clearly there was a subliminal fact. But he was sitting there like, he was really relaxed, okay? But it was the About Us page that was really fascinating. Now, most financial advisors' websites, on the About Us page, it says, Jones & Co. were established here in Reading in 1830, were specialists in pensions, equity release, retirement, mortgages, X, Y, Z. John is a chartered financial planner, and blah, 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 blah. Then it says at the bottom, John is married to Sue, they have 2 dogs, and love walking holidays in Spain. Now, to your average human being, which bit of that do you think is the most interesting bit? Yeah. Now, this particular financial advisor, this is what he'd done, but he'd reversed it. He'd gone to town on the personal bit. We didn't discover that John was married to Sue. We discovered where they first met each other at Portsmouth University studying creative writing or something like that, yeah? We didn't just discover that they've got 2 dogs. There were pictures of Whiskey and Joe and pictures of them in little local competitions they'd been to. We didn't just discover they like walking holidays in Spain. They were pictures of where they stay, some other recommendations, some TripAdvisor recommendations, a little map of where they go walking. We also discovered they have a daughter, Caroline, who is also, by coincidence, at the same university. And that she's not going to take a gap year and she's going to come and work in the business. To my mother-in-law, who was in a family frame of mind at the time, this was meat and drink. She couldn't give a monkey's that he was a pension specialist. She liked him. And her actual words were, I like the look of him. She just happened to pick one of the most highly qualified financial planners in the UK by pure chance. Just by pure chance. But this is how it works. We have to speak to our perfect clients and we have to speak to them in a human way instead of this nonsense that we come out with. And it just feels the most natural thing in the world to say, this is my area of expertise, this is the exam I've got level this, that, I've got level that and the other, and I've got these letters after my name. Great. For the most part, it's meaningless. There are a couple of badges, dare I use that word, that are becoming more important. Those of you that are looking at the ISO things, the quality standards, those of you who ever worked with Michelle Hoskin, the little Miss Wow, you come across her? She's the standards lady. It's the equivalent of a kite mark, essentially, for financial advice firms, and indeed paraplanning standards as well. I think if someone arrives does a Google search result and they find 2 identical websites and one of them suggests they've got a kite mark or a quality mark, that may well get attention, but that's another thing. So all this good stuff, all this expertise we have, it's actually people are buying people, but we can take that expertise and we can turn it into stuff like this. Now, increasingly, I'm meeting financial advisors who take it a stage further. So that's what most of us are selling. But this is potentially the route to it. Or even just take a couple of things. By online community, you could set up a private Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, or go to a website called Mighty Networks and create an online group, create your own social network. And here's the interesting thing. Each and every one of us in this room has several social networks. One of them is your family. That's a social network. Another is your friends. Another is people you know in the local community, people you work with. These are all networks. Your clients is a community. Your clients are a community, your clients is a community. Your clients, invite them to join your online group. Look after them, add value. Many will find that absolutely fascinating. But you could also do this, and I see more and more financial advisors doing this sort of thing, taking it a level further. Martin Bamford, financial advisor just down the road from where I live. Before he was 30, he had written 3 books. And I remember a lot of financial advisors, older financial advisors at the time, saying, what's he know about personal finance? He's only 25. You know, there's nothing that Martin knows that none of you guys and girls know. Each and every one of us in this room could write a book. I could show you a process. I've written a book on how financial advisors can write books. Just follow the process, easy peasy. You can have it. These were published by decent publishers. These days you don't need a publisher. I've written 3 books in the last 2 months and published them myself on Amazon. And as the first time I'd done it, I was just staggered how simple and easy it was to do. So Martin has taken his expertise, repackaged it. Do you think if you're on a business trip and you've had a long day and you just want to get home, you're at an airport and you want to get home and you see a book on the W.H. Smith shelves that says how to retire 10 years early, do you think that might get your attention? Of course it will. So each and every one of us can do this. Catherine Morgan, rising star in the world of financial advice, uses Facebook extensively. And I get it that some of you might be thinking, well, your clients aren't on Facebook. That's fair enough. But she does things like challenges. 5-day free money challenge. Identify what kind of relationship you have with money. Unlock self-limiting beliefs. All this stuff. Each and every one of us can do stuff like this. Give it away free or charge for it. Okay. So let's dive into 40 ideas, some of which we touched on already. And I said, my challenge to you, if you could just take one of these and go, I'm going to run with that. I love that idea. I'd be really pleased. Now, before we do, we've just got to tidy up what I was talking about, social media. Everyone will be telling you, and you read it all the time, that what you should be doing is just put content out there. Get on Twitter, do blogs, have a YouTube channel, put stuff on Instagram, you have your website, you've got to have your podcast, a membership site, Facebook groups, online courses, email, all this stuff we're told we should be doing. And no wonder none of it works for us, because we just think, well, Jones and Co. they're using YouTube, maybe I should give that a go. And so they're using Twitter, maybe we should give that a go. And that financial advice firm, they're using LinkedIn, maybe we should give that a go. Guess what? Give that a go is not a plan. I don't mind a bit of experimentation. That's fine. But for most financial advisors do not have a written down plan for their marketing. And it doesn't need to be some grand fancy document. It could be written on the back of an envelope. It could be as simple as, who are my target clients? Heart surgeons. Right. What do I know about heart surgeons? What are their problems? This, and this. Where do heart surgeons hang out? Online. And where else do they hang out? What marketing activities out of this kind of stuff could I do that would get their attention? It can be as simple as that, and then committing to it and measuring it. This idea that you can just keep bunging content out, that's fine for the likes of Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone and all these big internet people. It's not fine for you and I. This is just nonsense. If we are putting some of this stuff out, I would suggest we actually charge for it. Start taking our expertise, repackaging it, and selling it to people in other ways. I know financial advisors, particularly out in the United States, who realise that they're putting on seminars to attract clients, and they realise, well, what if we started charging for these seminars? And their first thought was, oh, no one will come along if I charge them. Where do you get that idea from? If people can see real value or there's perceived value, that actually makes it more appealing to people. And I know financial advisors in the States who have stopped doing face-to-face financial advice now. And all they do is chargeable seminars. They go around the United States just selling information. If people come up to them afterwards and say, can we do financial advice? I'm sorry, I don't do that, but I can introduce you to someone who does. And some of them realise this is really interesting. I have all this expertise, all this experience, all this knowledge. I could just put on educational seminars. So all this, when people keep telling you, bung stuff out on social media, put out content, just let's be cautious about this, okay? Okay, so that's the problem. This is what it feels like. This is certainly what social media feels like. Yeah, it's just a tidal wave that just keeps coming, and we're constantly being told we should be doing this too. No, we shouldn't. So first of all, what's your niche? What's your main area of expertise? Yes, you may have expertise in all sorts of other areas, but let's decide what's the main area. Define your perfect client. Write them down in detail. What age are they? Where do they go to school? Did they go to university? Where do they like to go on holiday? How much do they earn? What sports do they play at the weekend? What are their kids doing by way of education? Know this detail. Where do they live? What's the price bracket of their houses? We need to know this kind of detail. And then everything we do in terms of our marketing is aimed at that. But we've got to measure results as well. We'll talk about that. So This is Keith Churchhouse, who I mentioned earlier. He came up in the search results when Beryl did this. And Keith knows how to appear high up in search results. But Keith is also the master of old school marketing. And whilst I love the high-tech side of marketing, I also love the really, really low-tech side as well. And his most successful thing he's ever done is sponsoring roundabouts. Big old placard in the middle of a roundabout, just outside Guildford, Churchhouse Financial Planning. No website address, but I think there was a phone number. And he said it was astonishing. He used to like doing radio phone-ins as well, radio whatever it was in Guildford. And he's been doing this for so long. There's a particular roundabout that I go past quite often. And I just call it Churchhouse Roundabout now. I've always known it as Keith Churchhouse's Roundabout. And you can either just pay the money and have a billboard, or you can do the full sponsorship job and work with the local council to create an area of greenness and environmentally friendly for wildlife and so on and so forth. You can go that far if you want to do that. But just having a placard on a roundabout is incredible. Car stickers, do you remember them? This is proper old school stuff, but it works. So why would we not want to do this stuff? We talk about referrals. We think we're good at referrals here in this particular profession. Actually, we're fairly hopeless at it because none of us have got a referral strategy. I'm just going to leave this one to you. There's a guy called Bill Cates in the United States. He's the world's leading expert on how to generate more and better referrals. He just happens to specialize in financial advisors. This book is a must-read for every financial advisor. It will teach you how to get more referrals, how to get better referrals. And he maintains that if referrals is your primary source of business and you do it right and you're getting more and better, he said, it costs you nothing to generate referrals. So you can essentially have a marketing budget of zero in your financial advice business. If you can crack referrals, you can have a marketing budget of zero. This book is an absolute must-read because it teaches you how to get more of what you're already getting, but better. Okay, what's the number that goes in that box there? 60. Higher or lower? Higher. Boom. Now, there's all sorts of stats come out all the time. Sometimes the number's a bit higher, but it's a lot. And our kids are doing it even worse. Okay? Now, here's the thing. If you're a parent and you see that number there, and you see your kids doing this, walking down the street, and they've all developed this kind of little radar in their head. They can walk around without walking into lampposts or anybody else. If you're a parent, that's probably something to be concerned about. But if we forget the kids and look at the top number, if you're a marketer or you run a business, that is the most exciting news ever. And here's why it's the most exciting news ever. This is the home screen of my mobile phone. It's got all the usual stuff that you'd expect to see on there, and that. Now that is not my app. I don't have an app. All that is a link to my website. And I first discovered this with a financial advisor showed me her home screen of her mobile phone, and there was a link to her website on her logo was on it. I said, why have you got that? She said, it's a little trick, anybody can do it. She said, every single one of my clients, I show them how to put a link to my website on their mobile phone. And she said, if they're looking at their phones 264 times a day, they get to see my name 264 times a day. Now, all of you can do it. It's super easy, depending on what device you're doing. So what you do is you go to your own website on your own phone, and depending on what phone, there's usually 3 buttons, or there's a little link somewhere. You press this button, and there's an option that says download to home screen. You press that, and it downloads a link to your website on your phone. And what she does, she's created even a little video, a little screenshot video, lasts all of 10 seconds, and she gives it to every single one of her clients and says, it'd be great if you could download a link to our website on your mobile phone. Super simple, great idea. Testimonials. It is a variation on the theme. There's a firm in Wiltshire somewhere called Jones Hill. They don't have it on their homepage anymore, but up until recently they had 4 videos on their homepage of clients saying how wonderful they are. their bounce rate is almost zero. And what's really interesting is these client videos, they are real people, real clients saying real human stuff. And they're saying things like, you know, when we first met Jones & Co, we weren't quite sure whether they'd be right for us, but when we met Brian for the first time, it said, he's just great. He doesn't talk down to us, he's not condescending, he's reliable, he's a really nice guy, and they do great biscuits. Human stuff. You could do your client video testimonials on your mobile phone, but in this day and age, with great respect to our gentlemen on the cameras here, you can get filming done at a good price these days. Okay? Get client testimonials and put them on your website. They are so powerful, it's ridiculous. How about taking your clients for a walk? I mean, this is proper old school stuff. This is what I like. Part of your email newsletter, or when you first meet to a client, you say, oh, we do a monthly walk for about an hour, first Thursday of every month, around lunchtime. If you're up for that, come join us. How hard could that be to put on? And you make a big deal of it. Maybe you have a separate page on your website where you have photos. I know one financial advisor who's got a podcast where on each walk, he interviews one of the people who's come on his walk. They invite local professional connections to come on their little walk. It's just a little ramble. It could be half an hour at lunchtime. It could be a 4-hour job at a weekend. Just take your clients for a walk. What a great, simple way to get them out, get to know them in a relaxed, friendly environment that frankly will do us all good as well, get some exercise as well. Client walks. How hard could it be to do that? Equally, why don't you have your own wine club? Now, there's wine clubs and there's wine clubs. Some people run wine clubs as businesses. But as a financial advice firm, just once a month, buddy up with a local off license or a local vineyard. I discovered the other day there's something like 800 vineyards in the UK now. So there'll be one near you. They'll have an expert there who wants to sell their wine. They will more than happily come along to your office or to the back room of the Dog or Duck, whatever it is, and do a little wine tasting. Nice little wine club, nice little wine tasting with your clients, gets to know them, super easy. If you have a local newspaper, there's always stuff going on about who's doing well, who's won a new contract, who's got an OBE, whatever. Just send them a good old-fashioned letter to say, I saw you, I read about you in the local paper, congratulations. You don't then say, if you need help with your financial advice, don't do that. Just one local business person to another saying, well done, congratulations. How hard is it to do that? Maybe you specialise in financial planning for dental surgeons, yeah? Dentists have got loads of magazines. Just get in touch with the editor, offer to write an article. They won't necessarily accept it straight away, but try and build the relationship with them. Again, being featured in trade magazines is a super simple but very, very powerful way to get noticed. I know loads of financial advisors who do that. Doesn't have to be golf. Maybe you play tennis. If you have something that you are passionate about, I'll lay any money, you'll have some clients because they heard about your passion. Lots of financial advisors who play golf are members of golf clubs. It is inevitable they end up with other members of that golf club wanting to become clients as well. But go to the local golf pro or whatever it is and say, look, I'd like to put on a little client event. We've got about 4 or 5 of us coming on. You don't need to have hundreds of people coming on to these things. On your client walk, 3 or 4 people's fine. If you can get 20, 30, awesome. Go to the local pro, said, could you put on an hour's lesson for 4 or 5 of our clients? I'll pay, that sort of thing. Super easy. Clients love it. Out of office. This is one of my little hobby horses. So my mailing list of financial advisors is huge. Send out an email newsletter once a week, something like that. And at certain times of the year, all the out of office replies come in. You know, August particularly, Christmas particularly. Out of every 1,000 emails that I'll send out, 99% of them, the out of office message comes back and it doesn't mention that you've got a website. They usually say, we're out of the office, not contactable, please contact or whatever. Hardly any of them will actually say, we'll get back to you as soon as you can. In the meantime, please visit our website. or visit our blog, or check out our video testimonials. What that kind of says to me, the fact that you don't have your website address on your out of office reply suggests to me we're not really taking our website that seriously yet as a tool that we want our clients to interact with. Same thing on answer phone messages. Sorry, we're not here at the moment. We'll be back open at 9 o'clock in the morning. In the meantime, please visit our website at www.jones&co, whatever. Video case studies. Okay, so we're getting a bit more in depth now. Some of the most successful seminars that I see financial advisors doing is where they do a case study. The best seminars are where they do real life case studies with the person actually in the audience. Because usually financial advisors' case studies are very conveniently got noughts on the end, and that's not how things work in the real world. But you could do video case studies. You could do an interview with a client. Now you might be thinking, oh, my clients won't want to do that. But you'll find in a client bank of 100, 150 people, you'll find a couple of people be more than happy to be interviewed and used as a case study. And it adds an extra bit of credibility to your expertise. It's all very well saying, we are experts on pensions or retirement or whatever. Well, let's prove it. And here is a video case study going on, a video of an interview. You could even video, with their permission, a real life client meeting. And again, some will be thinking, oh, my clients won't want to do that. Well, you don't know, you've not asked them. So just kind of think about this. Infographics are becoming increasingly popular. As we know, we could write a blog. Some people like reading stuff. Some people like podcasts, so they listen to stuff. But some people like visuals. Some people are much more visual. A financial advisor in the United States could have written a blog on how to build your credit score. But he thought, well, that's going to be the most boring thing on earth. But let's create an infographic. Now, you don't need to be a graphic designer, you don't need to have any special skills. Just go onto Google and Google free infographic tools. And you just drag and drop stuff around. How hard could that be to do? Put that on your website, maybe create it as a poster, give it away as part of your value ladder. There's a whole bunch of things. There's another financial advisor in the States who puts on seminars, and he's got a poster, which is, and it's basically a roadmap, the financial roadmap. And you write on the poster your cash position now, where you'd like it to be, your retirement position, your pension value now, where you'd like it to be, and there's a drawing of a road, okay? Now, he gives this away, but he also sells it on his website as well. And all it is a simple piece of graphics. So again, if you're an expert on a particular topic, instead of writing a tips booklet or something like that, just create an infographic. Super easy to do. The financial advisors who put on the most effective seminars, in other words, the ones that get the most conversions after the seminar, are the ones who tell their backstory. What did I do right at the beginning today? I told a little story about where I started. Human beings are hardwired to listen to stories. When we lived in caves, we didn't watch TV. We sat around a fire listening to stories. The hunt that went wrong, the great hunt that went well. Human beings love stories. And in anything that you do, and each and every one of you has got a story, has got a backstory. Where you came from, how you started, how you got into financial advice, how you were shaped as a person. I do like a presentation skills course for financial advisors, and what we always do at the very beginning is get everybody to stand up and to tell their life story in 1 minute. And they're just fascinating. Now, we don't have to have climbed Everest or won an Olympic gold medal. All of us have got a backstory. All of us have got maybe some adversity that we had to get through at some point in our lives. And if we can find a way of telling our story through our marketing materials, you've got them, just like that. They're not going to go to anyone else. Because if they can see something of themselves in your story, they won't want to go to somebody else. How about this one? Why don't we take our clients to the movies? Have a cinema club. People are just interested. But those of you that have got clients with young kids, maybe take them. You don't even need to pay for this. All you could do is just arrange it. You will have some clients who would love to come and go and see a movie if you bring the kids with them. And I'm quite deliberately giving these really old school ideas. And I'm doing that because they work, and financial advisors are already doing this stuff, and it works for them. Text messaging, we might think that's a bit intrusive. I remember when I was working for Zurich Life and we were at the money marketing show or something like that, financial advisors would come up to our stand, we put their business card into a drawer, and then what we do, off they go with a carrier bag full of goodies and stuff like that. Then what we do, I'd wait about 20 minutes, I'd get their business card out the bowl, and I would send them a text. Hi, thanks John for coming along to our stand today, hope you enjoyed it. And do you know, someone would actually then come back, oh, I just got your text, look. Yeah, I sent it to you. So maybe you could put on a seminar, send them a text afterwards. Maybe they've come in for a client meeting, first client meeting, you've got their details, send them a text later in the day. Really great meeting you today. Simple stuff that works. Now, when I first went self-employed, I met a lady called Jackie Harper. Jackie Harper used to read the news on Sky, ITV, BBC, you'd recognise her straight away. And because she was a journalist, she understands about PR. And she said to me, what PR plans have you got, Phil, to launch your business? And I said, none whatsoever. I'm hoping that I can do a few seminars, pick up a few people like that, maybe get some word of mouth from some happy clients. She said, get in the habit of sending out press releases. She said, anything that happens in your business, each week or each month, send a simple press release out to your local journalist and maybe any specialist industry papers. And I said, that's interesting. How could we apply? What sort of things do you mean? She said, well, she said, let's take a financial advice business for sake of argument. She said, if you have taken on a new member of staff, tell the press. Put in a new computer system with some fancy new software, tell the press. Sent one or two of your colleagues onto a training course on customer service, tell the press. Want an important new client or an employee benefits client, tell the press. Brought the dog in on bring your dog to work day, tell the press with photos. See what I'm saying? And she said, however trivial you think that is, do it anyway. Now then she said, 90% of it will never appear in the press, but what are we really doing here? We're building relationships with people who could influence business to you. We're building relationships so that when the day comes, when something important happens on the news, like the budget, who are the press going to turn to for expert comment? Someone where they've got a relationship. That's why you do it. And the great thing about that also in this day and age is if it gets into the paper version of a newspaper, it'll also go in the online version as well. And if it goes in the online version, Google will pick it up. Martin Bamford, I mentioned earlier, he does a lot of work with the financial services press. And so many IFAs say to him, why do you spend so much time working with money marketing and Citywire? And he says, A, they know they can get a comment from me. B, it goes in the online version of the paper. C, it gets picked up by Google. So other people looking for the expertise that I've got, they find that reference in Google. So build relationships with the local press. It just works. Write a weekly review of the personal finance pages. How hard could that be? Literally every Monday morning, pick 2 or 3 items out of the Saturday papers, the Sunday papers, and say there was an interesting article in the Sunday Times about equity release. They made this, that and the other point. I agree with these good points that they've made. They missed out this, maybe they could have said that. Just write a short 2 or 3 paragraphs at the most review of the weekend press and then send it to all your clients. Don't let journalists educate your clients. Yeah, comment on what journalists already said. I agree with what this journalist has said. I don't agree with what this journalist has said. They could have mentioned this. They missed that point out. Show your clients that you're the expert, that you're the real experts around here that have done the exams. I know one financial advisor in Manchester who on a Monday morning does it on video. Just pops his mobile phone on his desk and says, hi, it's Fred here again. Here's our Monday review of the personal finance pages. In the Saturday Telegraph, they were talking about investment returns. Really interesting point. I agreed with the article, though they missed out this point. That's it. That's all they do. Sticks it on YouTube, sends an email to all his clients. Check out our Monday video. Super easy to do. Your own newspaper column, not always an easy one to do, but if you have expertise, get yourself out there. Another little thing you could do, I mean, if you were starting up a new business today and you wanted to get some advice about your website, Google will tell you, don't bother putting a website together for desktop or laptop. Start with a mobile website, because that's where most of your visitors are going to come from in this day and age, across all age groups. Make sure your website is mobile friendly. So all of you have got websites, I'm guessing. Some of them will be mobile friendly, some of them won't. Here's a really cool way to find out if it is. You just type your website address into this box on Google. Google runs a little test and it tells you if your website is any good on mobile. If your website is not mobile friendly, they will push you further down the search results. So it's really important that your website is mobile friendly. Another little trick though is that just by simply entering your website address into that and pressing submit, whether it's mobile friendly or not, you are then alerting Google's system to the existence of your website. Because up until now, they might not have found it. So just by doing that will make you more visible to Google. Again, give me a business card and I will send you copies of these slides so you can go through it all slowly. We're finding this useful? Excellent, good. Let's give you an example of the About Us as an example. So this is a typical this is a real one. I've changed the names. How dull is that? It certainly wouldn't have and didn't get the attention of my mother-in-law. Then there's this bit then. So we thought, oh, perhaps we should add a bit more. Actually, humans, this is what they're interested in. They're not interested in that bit. So worth just having to think about that. Revisit your About Us page. These are the sort of things that people are interested in your About Us page. It gets a little bit deep, but this is what connects people together. What is it about you that makes you who you are? I don't care what exams you've got. What is it about you? Is golf your thing? Is red wine your thing? That's the sort of stuff that I'm going to connect with. Okay. Lead magnets. I've been talking about lead magnets. Your e-books, your webinars, these are lead magnets. This is what gets people to want to talk to you further. You give them something for free in exchange for their email address. I don't really like the words lead magnets. It doesn't sit well in this profession, but that's what it is at the end of the day. We've all done it, haven't we? We've all done this kind of stuff, filled out this kind of stuff and got something free. What you give them has got to be good value, but this works. If you're an expert on retirement planning for surgeons, then you know all about the financial issues of surgeons. Write them in a short little guide, give it away for free. Write it in a longer guide, publish it on Amazon, on the Kindle, and charge for it. That's a whole nother story. You'd be amazed how much money you can make putting 25-page Word documents up onto the Kindle and charging people for it. Lunch and learn. People love learning new skills, so another opportunity to get people into a hotel room or into your office. Get an expert, maybe there's a local expert on mindfulness, for sake of argument. Yeah, somebody you know. Tell your clients, we're doing a lunch and learn on the first Thursday of the month. This month it's mindfulness. Interested in mindfulness? Come along for free. People love the sense of community and they love the fact that they're learning a new skill. So maybe you are friends with somebody who's an expert on something, invite them to come into your office. You might want to pay for their lunch. They might pick some clients out of it as well. Everybody wins. Networking. Hands up any of you who go to a networking event, BNI or something like that. I mean, this is huge. BNI is the biggest networking organisation in the world. Those of you who've been to BNI, you have like one accountant, one plumber, one estate agent, one financial advisor, and there's a kind of expectation that you refer each other. That's not for everybody. NRG, they tend to just do lunches. People like me go along and do a talk, and you can have 20 financial advisors in the room, 20 plumbers in the room, anything goes. It's the most fantastic organisation, absolutely fantastic. B2B, there's networking organisations all over the place, but something new that we're starting to see is called LinkedIn Local. It's always amazed me that LinkedIn never does the real life bit. Before LinkedIn was a website called eCademy, founded in 1998. And it was the world's first B2B social networking site. It was better than LinkedIn is now, back in 1998. And the idea was you could connect, you could meet people online, create your own profile, but what Academy used to do is have monthly meetings all around the UK where, you know, we'd connect online, we'd never met before, we'd go along to the meeting, I'd feel like I've known you for years when you turn up in the room. So networking is great, but there's networking and there's networking. Most of us are crap at networking, and I use that word advisedly. The first really bad thing we do is how we dish out business cards. We've developed over the years, through genetics, the ability to do this with a business card. And you go, oh, hi, what do you do? This is the worst kind of. The other worst kind of networking is people who've sneaked into the room before everybody and they put a business card on all the chairs. What's that tell you about them?
Too shy to meet you.
I mean, they're either hardcore marketers or, it's just, that's not networking. So what I'm going to give you now is 3 questions that you can use that will put you in the big league of networking, okay? The founder of eCademy was a guy called Thomas Power. Thomas Power was Alan Sugar's first ever real apprentice, long before the TV show. And he was hired because Thomas Power is a master networker. He's written 8 books on how to network. Like, there's that much to know. But Thomas, at the core of his training, are 3 questions which just work. So whether you're at a networking event, whether you're getting the coffee later or when we're having lunch, or whether you're stuck in a lift with someone or you're out on business in a hotel, use these 3 questions. It'll put you in the big lead of networking. The questions are designed to focus on the other person. People who go into a room and put business cards on the chair are just focusing on themselves. The best networkers are the people who go to a networking event and offer to help people out without expecting anything in return. Give to get. Yeah, we've heard all that before. Question number 1, you ask someone. Instead of, what do? You ask them, what's your area of expertise? It's a great question to be asked. If you're on the receiving end, all they've done, they've met me for 20 seconds and they already think I've got expertise. What is your area of expertise? Guess what will happen? They'll tell you. Question 2. You can ask in a variety of different ways. What are you working on in your business right now that's really important? Or are you working on anything special? Have you got any big projects going on in your firm right now? They'll tell you. And the third question, who could I connect you to that could help you with that? Or what expertise do you need that could help you get those projects through quicker, cheaper, better? And I'll try and help you out. Now, if you're a financial advisor and you go to a networking event and you ask the question, what are the big projects going on in your business right now? There'll be 1 or 2 of you at the back of your mind will be thinking, I hope they say, I need a pension scheme. It's not going to happen. What answers you'll get might often be quite banal. The big issue in someone's business right now might be something as simple as, actually, I need a really reliable photocopier supplier because ours is rubbish. So your job is to introduce you to someone who can help out. And if you go back to your network, your list of LinkedIn connections, you may know someone who can help them with their photocopier issues. But even if you can't, you go back to them the next day and said, you mentioned that yesterday. I've looked, I can't find anyone, but if I ever think I'll get in touch with you. They will never forget you for that. They'll never forget you for trying to help, and you've not asked for anything in return. That's what the best networkers do. And then the magic happens. The more you give like that, the more you get back. Magic doors open unexpectedly. And we do the same thing on LinkedIn. So those of you sticking around this afternoon, I'll show you how to use those 3 questions on LinkedIn to get astonishing results. So, networking. Okay, instead of going to BNI or NRG, why don't you put on your own networking event? It's a permutation on the client walk theme. It's a permutation on the wine club thing. Just get people in a room. Every single one of you could write to your local accountants, your local plumbers, your local tilers, anybody who does business in your local area, and say, look, next Thursday, we're going to be in the back room of the Dog and Duck. We're going to have a couple of drinks, just get to know each other. I'm going to do a 5-minute presentation. Come along. It's free. But you start making it known that this is a regular thing. First Thursday of every month, 5 p.m, back room of the Dog and Duck. eCademy, when they first started doing this, Thomas Power, they've got this lovely new online site, this new concept of online social networking, great idea, but he believed firmly that people need to see the whites of each other's eyes. So he wrote to the early membership, which at the time was about 20 people, he said, look, we're going to have a real networking event. We're going to go into a pub in London, I think it was. Just come along, have a couple of beers. We might have a speaker, then we'll have some more beers. People turned up, did all that, and he said, right, we're going to do this again same time next month. You can come along again for free if you bring a friend. Next month, there were 40 people. Following month, 80 people. Next month, 160 people. And it just snowballed until they got to a point where they had thousands of people turning up to their networking events. You could do that. And it could be a new income stream for you as well. Don't feel that you have to pay for this as well. But by being the hub of the community, that puts you in a great place. And why would the local business people who come along not want to refer you to their contacts as a result of that? Blogging. Okay, everyone talks about blogging. It's very, very powerful. It's a great tool to show off your expertise. It's also a great tool to get picked up in Google search results and pushed higher up. You can have a blog on your own website. You can have a blog on specialist web blogging sites like Blogger and Tumblr and places like that. You can also blog on LinkedIn as well. The thing is, everybody's blogging. Everybody's putting content out there. So if you want to do blogging, you want to A, commit to it, ideally once a week. I mean, the real hardcore bloggers do it every day, but that's, once a week is great. Once a month is better than not at all. But make it good quality. But it's really, really beneficial if it's something you're prepared to do. So blogging is, for want of a better word, just writing articles. That's really all it is. But people can subscribe to your blog, so every time you add something new, they get little messages that you've added something on. If you're not quite sure what you want to blog about, there's a wonderful website called Answer the Public. Type in a word. It could be equity release or pensions or golf, and it will show you every question that is being asked on search engines related to that topic. And what you do, what you're interested in, is the actual questions that are being asked. So pick a question that you feel you can answer, go answer it. There's also a website called Quora, which all it does is you just go onto it and ask questions. People are asking questions about every single topic under the sun, including personal finance. Who are the people who get noticed? The people who answer the questions. Again, old school, Jeremy Squibb, Serenity Financial Planning down in Cornwall, sponsors the local bowling club. Prime target market for him, best 30 quid a year he spends, he tells me. 30 quid! How hard is that to do? Oh, and there's the Serenity Cup, so Jeremy gets to present that. My parents, both sides of my family, are golf nuts. Down at Effingham Golf Club in Surrey, there's a Calvert Cup. My grandfather presented this cup and I now present it. Great exposure. Enter local awards. Down in Waverley, where I am, they're really getting into business awards. Local. This is the great thing. Martin Bamford is the best financial advisor on the internet around the world. But we've been lulled into this idea that the internet, we can trade anywhere we want with anybody. Martin's whole focus is on local stuff, because he didn't like travelling outside the village, to be honest. It's all about local. So get involved with local awards. I present them occasionally. Set up your own group. We mentioned this one earlier. Create up a private group on Facebook or a private group on LinkedIn or a private group on Mighty Networks, and just invite a few people to join and put occasional bits of content in there. Ask people, in other words, give people the opportunity to ask questions. As a financial advisor, another one down in Cornwall, a guy called Pete Matthew. He's got his own Facebook group called Meaningful Money. Every single day, there are people in there asking questions about personal finance. Way too many actually for him to deal with, but he creams off the ones that he wants to deal with. Good old-fashioned radio advertising. My other brother writes radio commercials. He said there's something very special about radio, and it's called cut through. I don't know who you listen to your breakfast listening, whether it's John Humphrey's Last Day Today or Radio 2. Although they are broadcasting to millions of people, it's still in your kitchen, in your shower, in your car. It feels like they're talking to you, and they call that cut through. But the power is in advertising. On commercial radio, when the adverts come on, 70% of us do not change channels. On TV, when the adverts come on, 70% of us change channels. So we love audio, and again, you might be forgiven for thinking that's expensive. It used to be. These days, you can, just for a couple £100, you can get a package. Now, I'm really scraping the barrel here. I don't even need to explain this one to you. This is what people do with Post-it notes, wasn't it? Find an article in a local paper. Oh, I know our client Sue, she'd like that. Tear it out, Post-it note, I saw this, thought of you. Send it off. Genius marketing, personalised marketing. Personalisation is just astonishing. Any of you bank with Coutts & Co? Wasn't all that long ago, they stopped doing handwritten bank statements. Well, they actually did before they send them out. The computer printed them off. They'd go to the branch manager and he or she would write just a few notes. Love to the family. See me. Whatever. Personalisation. Seminars. So, seminars. Single most powerful marketing tool you can do. But the one that's got the biggest blockage in your head that says, I can't do this. I can't fill a room full of people. First mistake financial advisors make with seminars is they go and try and be too big. Don't go for 20 people in the room, don't go for 50, don't go for 100. Start with 5. Get 5 people in the room, 5 people turn up, job done. Financial advisor I used to know down in Weston-super-Mare a few years ago. He bought into a practice that was quite a mature practice. The guys that own it were nearing retirement, were going to be out the door within 2 or 3 years. He was a young guy in his 30s. He saw real opportunity. It's a nice area, wanted to build up the practice. He got a business advisor in and said, I want to build up the practice, I want more clients. What's the best way we should do this? This was before social media. Business advisor, I think it was from Business Link. Do we remember Business Link? They were great. He said, put on seminars. So Andrew, the financial advisor, committed to putting on a seminar every 3 months for the next 5 years. Committed to do that. And he actually got 50 people in the room through a bit of trial and error at the start. I mean, it's a process. If you want to learn the process, just give me your business card and I'll send you a free book that shows you how to get bums on seats at seminars, okay? He got 50 people in the room. He does his generic financial planning talk. What do you think the conversion rate was? 50 people in the room. How many of them, or what percentage of them, came up to him afterwards or phoned him up a few days later and said, Andrew, I really enjoyed that. Can we make a date in the diary tour? What sort of percentage conversion rate do you think he got? Or what would you be pleased with? 10%. 10%, okay, higher or lower? If you're not getting 25%, then you've got to go on a presentation skills course. Andrew was getting 100% conversion rates. He said to me, if it's not 100%, Phil, it's 90, 95, who's counting? So, what was he doing? Was he making promises he could do things with people's money that he clearly, no, professional guy. Part of it was live financial planning. Live financial planning in the room. He also got a mixture of different people. A third of the audience were existing clients. So he was looking for the referrals, for people to come back from the seminar. I really ought to introduce my friend Sue to Andrew. Another third of the room was professional connections. And the rest were people who just turned up from his advertising. 100% conversion rates. And as to round this up before lunch, he started thinking, this is interesting. No shortage of new clients coming in. He had to take on more advisors. And he got to the point where people coming up to after him and he just knew he couldn't cope with them. So he'd say, my diary's full, but let me introduce you to Sue. She's great. She lives just down the road. You'd be great. And he'd find that 95% would go off with Sue or John or whoever it was. But the others, he could see it in their eyes. They didn't want to talk to them, and he just waited for the moment where they opened their mouth and said, so how much do you charge? So he could pick and choose the ones that he wanted to work with. Then he realised, I'm missing a huge trick here. I should be charging people to come along to these seminars. So he then went from offering free seminars to people paying £100 a ticket. What do you think happened? More people wanted to come. And his words, better people wanted to come. Why do you suppose that was? Perceived value. Then he realised, he's doing the exact same seminar, slightly better cheese and wine at the end. He then realised, he suddenly realised, this is awesome. People are paying to be prospects. And they're paying a couple of months in advance of the event. He said, why would I ever want to be doing any more financial planning when I've got a team who will do it for me? People will pay to come. Now, you're the financial advisors, you do the maths. 50 people in the room multiplied by 100, that's pretty good every quarter. Okay, I'm about done because it's lunch. I'd love to see more of you for this afternoon, if that's of any interest. If you found that of any help, as I said, give us a business card and we can send you a whole bunch of stuff. So thank you very much for your time.